Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a dessert so sinfully rich, so devilishly decadent, it feels almost like a guilty pleasure just thinking about it.
Definitely.
Today, we're diving headfirst into the story of that very tempting treat, devil's food cake.
And what's fascinating right off the bat is, while it's clearly a chocolate cake, Devil's Food Cake really does occupy its own distinct space. It's got a deeper, more intense character.
Exactly.
And understanding its origins, well, that really highlights this difference.
Right. So for anyone who hasn't maybe had the pleasure, what are we actually talking about here? Think ultra rich, deeply chocolatey,
Mm-hmm.
but with a texture that's surprisingly moist and airy. It's a real departure from just a standard chocolate cake.
Yeah,
And that name, Devil's Food, it kind of hints at a fascinating contrast, doesn't it?
it does. And if you look at, culinary traditions back then, that kind of evocative naming wasn't unusual.
Okay.
Think about the stark contrast it creates with something like, say, angel food cake.
Oh, absolutely.
One's light, ethereal, the other is bold, intense. It's almost like a culinary duality.
Right. Totally. And the devilish aspects, they go beyond just the name itself. Our sources point to using darker cocoa,
Yeah.
often more liquid in the batter for extra moisture, and that signature bold flavor.
And sometimes coffee. Right, or even a hint of red.
Exactly. Sometimes coffee, sometimes a touch of red color to deepen it. This isn't some, modern invention. It really does have a history we need to explore.
For sure.
So our mission today is to really sink our teeth into the story and the key characteristics that make Devil's Food Cake so, well, irresistible.
So where did this tempting thing actually come from? The research suggests the earliest known printed recipes started appearing in American cookbooks, maybe early 1900s.
Yep, that's what we found. There's a specific mention in a book called Mrs. Rorer's New Cookbook around 1902. That seems to be one of the earliest documented ones.
1902? Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because before the mid-1800s, chocolate as a baking ingredient wasn't really a staple. Not in most kitchens, anyway.
Right, it was mostly a drink.
Exactly.
Cool.
Primarily a beverage. It wasn't until companies like Hershey's and Baker's Chocolate really started producing cocoa powder reliably that chocolate started becoming a key player in baking.
And what's crucial there is how that availability, the commercial cocoa powder, sort of democratized chocolate baking.
Oh, good point.
It went from being this, luxury thing to something more home cooks could actually get their hands on. Paved the way for new recipes, all centered around chocolate.
Okay, so let's talk about that devil in the name. It's not about anything spooky, right?
No, not really. The sources suggest it's more like how we got terms like deviled eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just used to signify something intense, a rich flavor. Think of it as the food version of something being particularly striking or bold.
So devil just meant intense, basically.
Pretty much. It conveyed intensity. Whether that was spiciness for eggs or, richness for this cake, it wasn't necessarily negative.
And get this. According to the research, serving a full-on chocolate cake back then was actually a bit of a status symbol.
Really?
Yeah. Chocolate was still seen as somewhat luxurious. So baking a devil's food cake wasn't just about satisfying a sweet tooth.
Uh-huh.
It was also a subtle way of showing you had access to these, well, finer ingredients.
That connects really well to broader food history, doesn't it?
How so?
It just highlights how what ingredients are available and how people see them can reflect social stuff, economic stuff. Being able to whip up a rich chocolate cake like that, well, it showed a certain level of affluence, access to desirable goods.
Okay, so let's get down to the essentials then. What absolutely has to be in a devil's food cake? Let's talk key ingredients.
Right. At its heart, you've got to have unsweetened cocoa powder. And our sources indicate that using Dutch processed cocoa, well, that can really elevate it.
How does Dutch process change it?
It gives it a smoother, less acidic kind of character. Really nice. Then you need baking soda. That plays a huge role in creating that light, airy texture we mentioned.
Not baking powder, or both.
Often just baking soda, but sometimes a little powder too. The soda is key for the reaction.
Gotcha. And what about that trick for really punching up the chocolate flavor? I think I read something about hot liquid.
Yes. Boiling water or hot coffee. It's amazing how that heat seems to unlock a deeper chocolatiness.
Does the coffee make it taste like coffee, though?
Usually no, surprisingly. It just adds this incredible depth without being obviously coffee flavored.
Interesting.
Yeah, the heat helps bloom the cocoa, releasing all those aromatic compounds. And coffee itself has compounds that enhance the chocolate notes. Adds complexity.
Okay. Then obviously the richness builders, butter, eggs. And our sources consistently mention buttermilk. Why buttermilk?
Well, buttermilk is slightly acidic, right?
Right.
So it reacts with the alkaline baking soda.
Ah, chemistry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That reaction makes carbon dioxide, which gives the cake that light, airy texture, but it also helps keep it really moist, gives it a tender crumb.
Makes sense. And you can't talk cake without talking frosting. What are the classic partners in crime for devil's food?
The traditional ones really complement that intense cake.
Yeah.
7-minute frosting is one that light, fluffy meringue-style one offers a great texture contrast.
Ooh, I like that one.
Or chocolate ganache, smooth, glossy, drippy, really amps up the chocolate richness.
Can't go wrong there.
And then there's fudge frosting. That's for when you just want to go all in on the decadence.
Ultra rich. Okay, now I've definitely seen devil's food cake served with cream cheese frosting. Is that allowed, or is that breaking some rule?
Well, allowed, sure. It's delicious.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at baking traditions,
Yeah.
cream cheese frosting is much more historically linked, really strongly associated with red velvet cake.
Oh, okay, that's the classic pairing for red velvet.
Exactly. So while you might find it on devil's food, it's generally seen as maybe a deviation from the classic pairings for this cake.
Got it. All right, let's settle a fundamental baking debate here. Devil's food cake versus angel food cake. They feel like the ultimate study in contrasts.
Oh, they absolutely are. Truly opposite ends of the cake spectrum. Angel food cake is like the definition of lightness.
Right.
Made mostly with whipped egg whites, no butter, no fat. The texture is just incredibly airy, delicate.
And then, boom, devil's food cake. Dense, moist, buttery, and that unapologetically bold chocolate flavor.
They're like the yin and yang of the cake world.
Totally.
They just showcase two very different ways to bake, right? Each offers a totally distinct experience, caters to different moods, different occasions.
Yeah, sometimes you want light and airy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want that deep, rich indulgence. Need both.
So it's not just hiding in recipe books, is it? Devil's food cake has definitely made its mark in pop culture.
It certainly has.
Yeah.
Our research points to the rise of boxed cake mixes, especially in the 1960s. And devil's food was consistently one of the top sellers.
Yeah.
That widespread availability really cemented its place in, like, the American food consciousness.
And the name itself, it's just got such drama to it.
It's great.
You see it pop up all over. Romantic comedies, cartoons. I feel like it's even used metaphorically sometimes for something tempting or a bit forbidden.
That evocative name, it undoubtedly adds to its enduring appeal.
Yeah.
You know, creates intrigue, maybe even a touch of naughtiness. Makes it memorable.
And who could forget those TV show moments? I'm thinking Friends, Seinfeld, even The Simpsons, I think, have featured devil's food cake somehow.
Right. Its presence in popular media just shows how saturated it is culturally, how widely recognized. It's a dessert people instantly associate with comfort, indulgence.
Definitely. Now, while devil's food cake feels, I don't know, distinctly American maybe, the love for a really deep, rich chocolate cake is definitely global.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you look around the world, you find similar expressions of chocolate decadence everywhere.
Like what?
We'll take Germany's Sekretort. That dense chocolate cake, layer of apricot jam, dark chocolate glaze.
Yeah. Classic.
Or France's Moelleux chocolat, basically the molten lava cake, right? Oozing warm chocolate.
Oh, the best.
And in Mexico, you find pastel de chocolate, often with warm spices like cinnamon, sometimes even a hint of chili.
Ooh, interesting twist.
Yeah. Then there's the UK with their wonderfully named death by chocolate desserts, often multiple layers, different types of chocolate.
It's like devil's food cake is just part of this big, delicious, global family of intensely chocolatey things.
Exactly. Each with its own unique character, but all celebrating that rich chocolate flavor.
It really highlights this universal appeal, doesn't it?
Right.
Just expressed differently depending on where you are.
Totally. Through different techniques and regional tastes.
Okay, time for some fun facts. Need some trivia to impress people at the next cake-eating occasion.
Right.
Did you know that early versions of devil's food cake sometimes had a reddish tint?
Naturally. That's right. Before red velvet was intentionally colored, the chemical reaction between the natural cocoa powder back then and the alkaline baking soda could sometimes give it a reddish hue.
Wow, so it kind of predates red velvet's color in a way.
In a way, yeah.
And apparently, the dramatic name Devil's Food Cake might have even sparked a bit of a trend.
How so?
The whole food cake naming thing, like spice cake, carrot cake, might have been influenced by how memorable Devil's Food was.
That's a fascinating thought, isn't it? The success and catchiness of the name could certainly have made other evocative food cake names more appealing. seems plausible.
And in our modern emoji world, while there isn't a specific devil's food cake emoji yet,
We need one.
we do. But the simple cake slice emoji or the chocolate bar eye often get used to represent it online.
Which just shows how ingrained that image of chocolate cake is, in how we communicate visually about food now.
And this one surprised me because it's so reliably moist. Devil's food cake is actually a popular choice for wedding cake layers.
Really? Makes sense, though.
Why is that?
Well, the moisture helps make sure it stays delicious, even if serving gets delayed, which happens at weddings.
Really?
And the rich chocolate is a great contrast to, like, lighter, fruitier fillings they often use, like raspberry or maybe a ganache.
Oh yeah, raspberry and chocolate. Amazing. Okay, all this talk is making me seriously crave a slice, like right now.
Me too.
So for anyone listening who feels the same, what's the basic blueprint if they want to bake their own devil's food cake?
Okay, the essential building blocks. You need flour, obviously, and a good amount of cocoa powder, ideally Dutch processed for that smoother flavor we talked about. Leavening agents. Baking soda is key, maybe a little baking powder too. Pinch of salt, very important to balance sweetness. Liquids like buttermilk and that hot coffee or water. Richness from butter, sweetness from sugar. Eggs for structure and flavor. Maybe an extra yolk for richness.
Ooh, extra yolk. Nice tip.
And the vanilla extract, of course, just enhances everything.
Okay, that's the ingredient list.
Oh.
And the simplified process. Give us the highlights.
Okay, generally, preheat your oven, prep your pans, grease and flour, or line them.
Standard cake prep.
Yep. Whisk your dry ingredients in one bowl, combine your wet ingredients in another, cream the butter and sugar together really well. That's key for airiness.
Right.
Beat in the eggs, one at a time, then the vanilla. Then you alternate, adding the dry and wet mixtures to the butter mixture, starting and ending with dry. Mix until just combined. Don't overmix.
Crucial cake advice right there.
Always. Bake time depends on your oven, pan size, maybe 30-35 minutes for standard layers. Check with a toothpick.
Okay.
And please let the cakes cool completely before you even think about frosting them.
Patience is a virtue in baking.
Especially with frosting.
Ganache or classic chocolate buttercream are definitely calling my name now. So let's say it is Devil's Food Cake Day. How should we properly celebrate this monumentally delicious occasion?
Oh, so many fun ways. Baking one from scratch is like the ultimate celebration, right?
Definitely satisfying.
Or you could organize a fun, maybe slightly competitive chocolate cake bake-off with friends.
Ooh, I like that.
For the adults listening, exploring pairings could be fun. A rich red wine, maybe a tawny port, or even a decadent espresso martini.
Martini pairing. Interesting.
Or make mini versions. Cupcakes, little layered things in jars. Makes it easy to share.
Cute idea.
And of course, you got to share your masterpieces online, right? Use a hashtag like hashtag Devil's Food Cake Day or something. Spread the chocolate love.
Love it. And you know what? Sometimes you just need to embrace a little bit of that indulgence.
Absolutely.
Life is short. Eat the cake.
That's the motto. It's about savoring those moments, enjoying something truly delicious without feeling, guilty about it.
Well, we've certainly journeyed deep into the history of this rich and tempting treat today, from its origins and name all the way to baking and celebrating it.
Yeah.
Devil's Food Cake, it turns out, is more than just dessert. It's a fascinating slice of culinary history and just a whole lot of deliciousness.
It really is interesting how a seemingly simple cake can hold so much cultural weight, evoke such strong feelings of, like, indulgence and enjoyment.
Absolutely. So whether you're now inspired to grab a slice, get busy in the kitchen, or maybe just spend a few moments in a chocolatey daydream.
Daydreaming sounds good too.
We hope this deep dive has brought you a little bit of joy and maybe, just maybe, a serious craving.
And as you're thinking about that rich, stark flavor, here's something to chew on. How much do the names and the cultural stories we attach to our food actually shape how we experience them? How much do they affect our enjoyment?
That's a great question.
Are there other foods out there whose names and histories create that same kind of intrigue, that same sort of temptation? Something to think about.